Hey folks, and welcome back to another day, to another video in this wedding series. If you're new here, my name is Dee. I make lifestyle content, I review stuff, I vlog, I do all the things. But in today's video, I wanted to come to you real casual like, because let's be honest, we're not stuffy over here on this channel. But I wanted to continue this wedding series by talking about the details of our wedding. So if that's something that you're interested in, then keep on watching. Okay, so the first thing I wanted to start off with was the dress. So I looked good, of course. The dress came from a boutique called Bestow Bridal Boutique in Bee Cave. I told you guys in that wedding dress shopping video that I wanted something that had straps, that was fitted, of course. The dress was very fitted, and I didn't want it to be too sparkly. So the only thing that the dress didn't check off was that it didn't have straps, but I was totally fine with that because it just fit so nuts. It fit me like a glove from the get-go. The only problem is that like the bust came out a little bit, but you couldn't really fix that without getting it to be too tight and it not fitting, and the length, it was just a little bit too long by maybe about 2 or 3 inches. It was I just love that dress, and I've looked at our photos and wedding footage and stuff so much since then that it's just, I knew I made the right decision at that moment in time. All right, so I've told you where it was from and kind of what I was looking for and everything, which you would have already got if you did see that video, and I'll make sure I link it in the cards or link down below or wherever so you can watch that if you're interested. But in terms of like the actual dress, so my dress was a strapless fit and flare with a sweetheart neckline, and it was from the brand Allure Bridals. It was, to be honest, size-wise, not really sure what size it was. I think it might have been a 12 or 14. I can't remember. I don't really care about size as long as my stuff fits right, because size is literally just a number. It doesn't mean anything. It doesn't mean that I'm obese. It doesn't mean that I'm underweight. It literally just means I'm a size 12. That's it. So I don't really remember the size of the dress, but I want to say it was somewhere around 12, 14. Now the cost, because this is kind of like an off the rack thing, the dresses are typically very cheap. We all know that dresses can get crazy expensive. I mean, weddings in general can be crazy expensive, but dresses alone can get upwards of like tens of thousands of dollars. And homegirl wasn't trying to spend that much. So I knew I didn't want to spend too much money. So my budget going into it was $1,000, and that was with tax. So I knew that I was going to have to find a dress somewhere between $800 and $900. And so how much did my dress cost? Drum roll please. It cost $899. So with tax, that came out to like $975 or something. So I was about $25 under my $1,000 budget for just purchasing the dress. Okay, so you've found out where I got my dress from. You know the brand, you know the cost, you know the type of style and all that kind of stuff. So then it comes down to alterations. So when you buy a dress from Bestow, they will give you a list of tailors, seamstresses, you know, people who have altered wedding dresses before that you can leverage to, you know, get your stuff altered. Now, alterations are totally on you. That's not something that you would work through the boutique for. I reached out to a woman who I thought was in my area, and that's mainly the reason why I picked her. There's no pictures of these people. It's literally just like their location, their name, their phone number, and then there might be a little bit of a blurb on them. So I picked her solely because her location was like in the same location as me. So I sent her a text and said, hey, you know, her name was Barbara. I was like, hey Barbara, you know, my name is Denise, like giving her all the ins and outs that I just purchased a wedding dress and I saw that she was suggested on the list, and I wanted to reach out to her because it seemed like she was in the same area. So we're texting back and forth, and she's like, oh, my home studio is actually in Georgetown. And I was like, well, I've already started this process and communicating with this person, so let me go to Georgetown and find out. I get there, and it's an older black lady. She's probably in like her 60s, older black lady. So of course I'm like already feeling comfortable because I'm like, oh, kindred spirit, you know? Guys, let me tell you, she was the nicest person I could have ever worked with when it came to altering my dress. She was so polite. She was so just so friendly and just so, I don't know, like I honestly felt like I could just go out to coffee with her and we could just like talk for hours. Like she was just such a fun lady to be around. What happened is I went to her house, took my dress with me. We did like a first kind of like initial fitting, and then she kind of was like, okay, what is it that you need me to do? And then, you know, she kind of wrote out a receipt and everything, and the cost was going to be $550 for putting in a hook and eye in the top so that, you know, the the dress didn't unzip, doing the loops and stuff for the bustle, and she needed to take it up like 3 inches. But so overall, like in terms of alterations, there wasn't really much that needed to be done. She quoted me $550. Did I pay that much? No. Why? Because this woman is just that amazing. So I ended up picking up the dress in November and she didn't charge me any. She put on my thing $550, kept that receipt, but it said $550 because she had basically itemized everything. And the total was $550. And I had I had a ton of cash on me at the time. Was like, oh, will you take cash? I have cash for you and stuff. And she was like, oh, didn't I tell you that this is complimentary? She was like, yeah, I just really like you, Denise. I love your personality and I love how confident you are and I love how excited you are about your wedding. I just wanted to do this as like a complimentary service to you. Like, this woman does not even know me like that. Literally, our only connection was this wedding dress. And she said, if you want to give me a tip, that's fine. If you join my service, if you know anybody that needs alterations and stuff, let me know. I mean, this woman had been doing this for like 30, 40 years. So she's more than an expert in my opinion. And I was like, yeah, definitely. And she's like, the only thing I ask is that if you remember, you send me pictures. What? I was like, of course I'm going to remember Barbara. As soon as we got our photos back, I sent her photos. I think she might have been one of the first people I sent photos to. Yeah, so she was really appreciative that I remembered to send those photos to her. But she was just so nice. Shout out to you, Barbara, for just doing the damn thing. One thing I forgot to mention is that I did actually give her money. I think I gave her somewhere between $200 and $300. We've got the dress details out of the way. Let's talk about hair and makeup. So hair and makeup. This was probably the biggest stressor of the entire thing, okay? The entire thing. It was so annoying, y'all. So annoying trying to find someone to do my hair and makeup. So I'll talk about the hair first because that was a little bit less of like a stressor than the makeup. It's still a stressor, don't get me wrong, but it was less of a stressor than the makeup was. So with hair, I wasn't really sure what I wanted to do at first because I was like, well, I may just go to somebody who has done bridal hair before and just be like, what do you, like, this is, and just give her the details of our wedding and she can kind of make a decision that works best in terms of hairstyles for, the wedding theme and the environment and all of that. So I actually reached out to like a couple people in different Facebook groups asking like, oh, who does like black hair and all that kind of stuff. And I wanted someone who was black because I'm black, if you couldn't tell. And like I have black hair, I have black skin, and I needed somebody who knew how to do black hair and black skin. I was asking different people in these groups. People were giving me suggestions left and right. I reached out to these people. Either they were way too expensive for what I needed or they just weren't getting back to me. I did not know what I was doing with my hair until I started doing my hair. And that is so freaking risky. Like, I'm telling y'all, please do this. Like, please plan better than I did because my hair and makeup, I did not know what I was doing until I started it. It was just like, I don't know what to do, so I'm just going to do something. I was debating whether or not to do like an updo bun or a lower sleek bun or like a curly bun or a twist out or some sort of twisted design very similar to what I had on the wedding day and stuff. I ended up just doing 2 flat twists that go down in the back and kind of taking the ends and curling them up, kind of getting my Princess Leia buns on in the back. I took 1 flat twist on this side in the front, and then I took any kind of hair that I had and just like pulled it back, sprayed it, pinned it, bed it into the other flat twist, and then just put my little hairpiece on there. Hairstyle took me maybe 15 minutes to do. Which is great because when we got married in the middle of the day, so I didn't have a ton of time. Only regret that I have about my hair is that I wish that I had actually had the hairpiece on this side, since this was the side that was being shown photos and to the crowd and stuff. Either way, I looked damn good, honey. Okay, so let's talk about makeup. Makeup was even worse than hair because I actually had people that were like, oh yeah, like I'll service you, like I'll take care of you, blah, blah, blah. And then it was like, after that, nothing. Radio silence. Like I reached out to people from San Antonio to Dallas. Okay, people would get back to me just saying like, oh yeah, like I'll reach out to you soon. And then it's like, because of the times I was like, all right, well, I'll give you a month. Nothing. I was just like, okay, no one's getting back to me. So then I was like, you know what? I guess I'm just gonna have to do my makeup as well because no one's getting back to me. Like, it was so freaking frustrating. And I specifically wanted a black artist because I was like, I have black skin. So when it came to my makeup, I couldn't get in touch with anybody that would actually try to like do a trial or anything like that. It was just radio silence, unfortunately. My makeup turned out pretty good. And all I did was just do my makeup as I normally would when I was wearing makeup every day when I was going into the office, and just adding a little bit more dimension to the eyes. That was really it. Apparently, like, I did a good enough job that people were complimenting me on it. All right, so we've talked about the dress, we've talked about hair and makeup. Let's talk about the accessories. So I didn't want to have too much going on, right? I wanted to still look like me, ultimately. I knew I was going to look different because I was in a freaking wedding dress, right? And so that's just gonna look different than my regular kind of sweats and stuff. But I wanted everything to still look like me. I wanted everything to be simple. I'm not an over-the-top glam girl, so I didn't want to come off like that. I didn't want to have all this bling around my neck. I didn't want to have all this bling hanging from my head, from my ears. I didn't want to have a huge headpiece on. I didn't have a veil, which I never ever wanted. I was like, you know what? I'm just going to look on Etsy, see if there's some rose golds, you know, hair pieces that I can just kind of look through, see what I find. The name, like I said, I'll have, if I can't remember it, I'll either pop it on the screen or I put it in the description bar. I'll have all the details and stuff of everything provided to you down below. But I came across this Etsy shop where you could pick the different metal finish, like different color, like gold, silver, rose gold. You could also choose whether you wanted a comb or no comb, and then you could also choose the length. So the one that I got was rose gold with a comb and 5 inches, and it was perfect. Earrings, same kind of situation. I wanted it to kind of fit in with the theme, so I needed them to be rose gold, and I kind of wanted it to match a little bit with the hairpiece as soon as I found the hairpiece. So once I found the hairpiece, I started my search for a pair of earrings. So I was like, ooh, let me look at ear crawlers, because ear crawlers are easy to put in, they'll stay in, they're very comfortable to wear. They're the type of ear accessory that you can wear with a t-shirt and a pair of jeans and sneakers, or you can wear it on a more formal event like your wedding day. And I found a pair that was so cute. They're so light. I feel like they match with the hairpiece. So the next thing we're going to talk about is the ceremony. And I'm going to try to whiz through this as quickly as I can. I said in the prep video that, like, when I was telling you guys about my ring and stuff, that I would tell the photographer that day when I see him or her to, you know, Photoshop the ring and all that kind of stuff. And the reason why I said that is because of the way we got married, the organization we used to put all this stuff together. So my husband's brother, so my brother-in-law and his wife were one of those very many couples that were supposed to get married in 2020, but because of the obvious pandemic, weren't able to. So they got married through an organization called Elope in Austin. And Elope in Austin is an organization that specializes in elopements and micro weddings. It's a really great business to use to organize all this stuff for you. So she told me about this Elope in Austin situation because my husband and I did not want to have a huge wedding. Like, before I even get into the weddings, like into the venue stuff and the ceremony stuff, from the get-go, my boo and I did not want a huge wedding. We did not want to put all of this money, thousands and thousands of dollars, to entertain people. Like, that just was not our thing. And if anyone knows me, they know that for the longest time, for at least 5 or so years, I'd always been talking about a courthouse wedding. And I think that some people thought that I was saying that just to joke around, but I was not joking, because I was like, I am concentrating on having a healthy, adult, godly relationship. I don't care about people eating. I don't care about people going home with a favor. I don't care about like where we get married and stuff. Like, I just want to make sure that after we get married that I am entering a marriage with someone that I truly love, that I truly connect with on all levels, and the end. Like, guests and all that, family, friends, or whoever, did not count at that point. And I know some people might watch this and hear me say that and say like, oh, well, she wasn't thinking about a guest. No, because when you're getting married, you don't have to think about guests. You think it's literally just about you and your partner. So I kind of wanted to preface that, because like the idea was not for us to have a whole wedding thing. Like, we were not supposed to have a reception, all that kind of stuff. And I'll talk about the reception in a second. So fast forward to Elope in Austin. So my brother-in-law and his wife told us about this. This is how they got married and all of that. So what you do is you can go on the website, and of course I'll have that link below, and you look through the venues that they have available that they kind of work with, pick a package based off of what venues you're kind of considering and how many guests or no guests did you want. So for me, my only requisite for this wedding was that my family was there. I moved to Texas by myself, no friends, no family here, didn't know anybody. And so, like, we're very close geographically to his family, which is great because, like, I love his family, his family loves me. But my family's not here. My family's 1,500 miles away. So I really wanted, my dad to walk me down the aisle. I really wanted my sister there to help me and like have those experiences with me and stuff. I want my brother there. I want my brother-in-law and the girls there. Like I wanted that, like my family there. Especially since like going through this whole process without my mom was really, really difficult. And that was kind of another reason why we didn't want to have this huge to-do, because I knew emotionally speaking, it was just going to cause me to just boil over and I would have ended up just not going through with any of it. At first, we were going to get married at this place called the Chapel of Love, which only allowed you 6 people. And at that point we were like, okay, and that was because we were paying for it. And that was like, okay, we don't want to spend more than like $1,000 on a venue. We don't want to spend more than $1,000 on a dress, like for me, and like all this other stuff. So we really did not want to spend a ton of money on this, but we still, obviously wanted it to look nice and have some nice photos and all that kind of stuff. We could have easily paid like probably 10 grand for this entire wedding, which isn't out of the ordinary. I feel like that's maybe on average, I don't know. But he and I were like, we don't want to spend more than like $2,000 all together for any of it, because it's really just about the 2 of us. I told my family like, hey, this is what we're doing for our wedding. The officiant is a part of the package. The photos are a part of the package and all of that. So this is what we want to do. And they're like, okay, like, whatever you guys want to do, that's fine. And it would have only allowed us basically to have like 3 adults on each side. So it really would have only been like my dad, my brother, and my sister on my side. And then on his side, maybe like his grandparents and his mom. So, and we were fine with that. And we were just like, this is what we want. This is what works. We're paying for it. So it's like, we don't want to have to put out a ton of money for other people. So then I think maybe about a couple days later, my dad calls me and is like, oh, we can't have you like, we can't have you in this tiny, tiny place getting married. Like, I'll pay for it. My dad didn't have to, but he offered to, and I was like, that's fine. So then because of that, we opted for a bigger package that allowed us to have 12 people instead of 6 people. And then I think it also allowed us to have like 10 or 15 more photos than what we would have had if we got married at the Chapel of Love. You don't meet your officiant or your photographer until that day. Now you have some time before the ceremony starts and stuff to like talk to them and stuff, which is what I did. Because again, in that prep video, I told you that when I would meet the photographer, I would ask them to like Photoshop it if they just so happened to get some photos that showed it very obviously that my stone was missing. So I talked to her. Her name was Rebecca. She was super cool. In the wedding vlog, you would have seen a white girl with like orange yellow hair. That was her. And obviously big camera. So she was our photographer. And then our officiant was Makai. Christian lady, super sweet, so nice. To be honest, don't really remember the vows and everything. Like, I have all that stuff filmed, luckily. Thank you to my niece Rachel for filming for me. They were sweet, they were nice, they were short and sweet. So she was great. But yeah, so basically with Elope in Austin, they tell you like, don't show up more than 10 minutes before. You have to show up dressed and ready, right? So there's no like real place for you to get ready and all that kind of stuff. But with this particular venue, it's basically like almost like an old house. So like there are rooms upstairs that you can clearly get ready in. Like I could have actually brought all of my stuff there because I was like in contact with the owner for the reception stuff. And she was like, oh yeah, like the whole weekend, like if you want to come in and like drop stuff off the day before, you can. So I could have brought all my stuff and had my nieces and my sister be there, and like I could have gotten dressed and ready there. I didn't want to do that. So obviously you guys would have seen that I got ready at home and then we drove over and got married. When it came to the officiant, he and I talked about having my pastor from Jersey and his grandfather marry us together because I wanted it to be an even playing field. I didn't want just his grandfather to marry us because I just didn't want that. And I didn't want, my pastor to just marry us because like my pastor knows me, but he doesn't know Paul, who is my husband, which I don't think I've said his name before, but Paul is my husband. I wanted it to be an even playing field. And we were under the impression that we were going to be paying for this before, my dad offered. I didn't want to have to put out, because if my pastor came in, I would have to pay for his accommodations and stuff, which wouldn't have been a problem, but we didn't want to have to put out extra money for stuff if we didn't have to. So that's why when my brother-in-law and sister-in-law told us about, you know, about Elope in Austin, it was like a godsend, because it was like, oh, well, it takes the guesswork out of trying to figure out a photographer, to figure out the officiant and all that other stuff. So it was great. So we get there. So I get dressed and everything. You would have seen this in the wedding vlog. Got ready here at home. We got all dressed and everything. It was like a cold day. It was probably in like the 40s or 50s. And I had on like my puffer jacket that was like over top of my dress, which you would have seen that as I was walking up the steps. Like everybody was ready. Like even when I got there, because I got there before my husband, our families were already coming. I feel like I'm jumping all over the place. But like I said, this is casual. Like I have my notes here, but I'm also just kind of speaking, whatever. Sorry guys, I'm like super excited to be talking about this stuff finally. Another thing that I completely forgot to mention with the packages is that it specifies in a certain amount of time for your ceremony. Mind you, this is just the ceremony. So typically speaking, unless you have like all this cultural stuff that you want to be a part of your ceremony, ceremonies typically don't take longer than like 15 minutes because it's literally just vows. That's it. People talking for a couple of minutes, you kiss, and then you go, you take your photos and you go and eat your food. So for our package, we picked the Carrington in Buda. It's old, it's rustic. It just screams Texas because it has like Lone Stars on the outside of the building. And I just love the rusticness of it. Like my boo is a Texas boy. He wore cowboy boots with that, which I loved. And you know, obviously Texas is a really big deal for me because this is where I moved to, this is where I found my husband, this is where I kind of found myself as a person and stuff. So I wanted that kind of common thread throughout the theme of the wedding. Our time allotted was an hour. We got 35 photos as like a part of our package. And then of course, with each package, they picked our photographer and our officiant. The officiant is picked based off of kind of your preferences. So like, you know, he and I are both Christians. So obviously we wanted sort of religious ceremony where there's like prayer and everything. And Makai is a Christian. And she told me before, like, you know, I'm going to do a prayer and stuff. Is that okay? And I said, oh, of course. Like, pray over this matrimony, okay? With our family, so it was just family that came to our wedding. How much was it? It was about $16.40 something. Now, on to the reception. And I'm going to try to get through this real quick. So originally we had no plans on having a reception. I already kind of told you about how my boo and I were just not about trying to make this whole thing about other people and really just trying to have it be about us. So reception was not something that we were really into. Then when my dad was like, okay, you know, I want to offer to pay for it, we knew that that meant that he was looking to have a reception. And I said to him straight up, I was like, I'm really not down to have a reception, but fine, we will do this to appease you, you know, whatever. So originally we were going to have the reception still at the Carrington, but because Elope in Austin doesn't do receptions, I had to now work with the venue separately for the reception. So we're going through the whole process and stuff, and it got to a point where we had to cancel. And I'm not going to go into details about why we had to cancel and all that kind of stuff because that's kind of personal. But anyways, so circumstances happen, whatever, it's life. And we ended up canceling the reception. This is the best decision because ultimately we did not want this. So after the ceremony, we took photos. I think we took photos for maybe about a half hour. Once we got all the photos that we wanted, we went home. I got out of my dress swiftly because my feet were killing me and I just wanted to be, you know, comfortable and take off my many layers of shapewear and stuff. And then yeah, we got barbecue from Black's Barbecue. It was so good. So freaking good. We were eating barbecue for like 3 days. It was so delicious. And then my mother-in-law brought cupcakes for the dessert and a pie. It was just a really great day and it was the most perfect day for my boo and I. If there's any other questions or things that I might have missed or any other details that you'd like to know, please let me know. Thanks for hanging out with me today. Thanks for tuning in to another video in this wedding series. I'll see you in the next video. Bye.